Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. Welcome to my office and a bit of an update on my Throne of Skulls Armies on Parade board. Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club, your event or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description. So let's continue with Shaky Cam and where I was up to. As you can see, my board was underway, my backdrop here is underway, and I'll show you a bit more about how I was making that in a moment. And I had some extra kits which I build them from, and this one becomes problematic. Nuln Army project has been hit by a couple of curveballs, but it still survives. But in this video I want to talk through what's happening, what's going on, and what my revised plans are for the project. While gathering the forces, the defenders of Nuln unfortunately have taken two unexpected attacks from two behemoths of their respective leisure industries. Games Workshop changed or released rules for Armies on Parade which didn't quite match what I guessed they would be, and Disney, no other than Disney, has delivered the real hammer blow to my project, at least in terms of getting it ready in time for the Throne of Skulls. Now, of course, Disney have done nothing at all. Let's remove the faux hyperbole and explain. We are going to Disneyland Paris the week leading up to the weekend of the Throne of Skulls in the UK. It is half term, so it's a school holiday in the UK. When I booked Throne of Skulls, we weren't going away for the week. We might have done a couple of day trips, but nothing more. And then over the time, we have since booked Disneyland Paris for the kids. We went to Florida a couple of years ago. They loved it. And we decided to book this as a special treat for them. We told them on Christmas Day as well. They are super excited. My wife's super excited. And I'm pretty excited too. It's a really cool thing to do, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And it was going to be fine. I was going to be a bit tired on the weekend of Throne of Skulls, but it was going to be manageable. Unfortunately, we messed up a little bit with the travel plans, and we didn't realise quite how late we'd be getting back. And we're driving as well. We live in Gloucester in the UK. It's a small country, but the drive, not including the time it takes to stop and wait for our Channel Tunnel crossing, is 8 hours. So it's an 8-hour drive home, plus the wait time and all of the packing time. We're probably talking 10, 11 hours total from leaving the hotel in Paris to getting back to Gloucester in the UK on the day before the event. And we're not going to get back to the early hours of Saturday morning, the day of the event. And that's unpacking with two kids, 5 and 10. So the youngest is relatively young. And then having to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning again, maybe on 3 hours sleep or something like that, to drive to Nottingham. It's only a couple of hours, but it's enough that I will be dead on my feet. As a 47-year-old man, I just can't do that kind of stuff anymore. And if it was get there and chill out for the day for a relaxed game maybe, but 2 days full of gaming, and I want to give my all to the event, and I don't want to be yawning in my opponent's face. I want to be full of energy and give good games and have fun. And it just was silly. It just wasn't going to work. I needed to be realistic about it. That news came on the day that they released, or the news got out about the changes in rules for Armies on Parade. And while some of that is rescinded now and changed and things, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when you get away from my face in this video and start showing you what I've been doing. I'd used a number of Middle-earth strategy battle game scenery pieces within that board, enough that it was quite a lot of work to go back and undo. And with all the work I had to do on the army as well, it made the sort of double blow of the getting back late and all the work I had to do, all of the late nights I was going to have to put in to get the army ready and the board ready, just together, just made that decision a little bit easier for me. As much as I didn't want either set of news, it definitely sort of, well, if I say no now and be honest that I can't go, the pressure suddenly comes off and I can focus on the project in a new way. And this project is still going to be continuing, and much of this video is going to be about the new plans or the slightly adjusted plans on what I want to do and how I'm going to use the extra time that I have now available to me. Aside from the bits I have to change, none of the work that I've done is going to waste, including the army list chat, because I want to run this as a regular 2,000 point army list quite a lot in my games anyway. Empire are going to be one of my most played armies along with my dwarves, and that Nuln Army of Infamy is exactly the direction I wanted to go. It's not just for Throne of Skulls, and yes, I still struggled a little bit with the balance, but it's the kind of army I want to play. And by pivoting this project to a Armies on Parade project where I can just stick which miniatures I want on there, I can also make it a bit of a visual thing. So that's going to be one of my main goals, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as well. So with Throne of Skulls sadly out of the way for 2024, and I will very much be aiming to go in 2025, let's talk about Armies on Parade. That was very much a secondary thing. My plan was to use this board for that as well, maybe tart it up a little bit in between the event and having to enter for that. But I've never entered Armies on Parade before. I always think about doing it, and by the time I decide what would be fun to do, it's just too late. And by starting the project early enough in the year to do so, it's given me a really good chance to get that done. So I've never really looked at the rules before, and there was some news around changes that have been made, and there's loads of categories this year. There's just a standard army, which you don't have a board. That seems to be new, and you can enter that online, so I'd encourage people to enter their armies to that. Really cool, fun thing to do. There's a young bloods category. There's even a team category now. You can get together and build a big board, which is amazing as well. And then there's the Armies on Parade board category, which you actually have to take a physical board into a Games Workshop store. And I still don't know whether there's a set date for all stores or it's different dates for different stores. That I still need to find out. But the window for that is July to September, which is quite a way off, so I've got some time to finish this board at a slightly slower pace and not cut as many corners, just to try and get it done in time for the event. So that's going to be fun, and that's what this project now is going to be about. The spanner in the works is around the rules, and I'm not going to debate those too much in this video. That's not really the point of it. I talked about it a little bit on the latest Hobby Hour episode 24, I believe, and Dan and I talked about it a little bit, and Games Workshop released some rules that basically meant you couldn't mix any miniatures and parts from different settings. Age of Sigmar and Warhammer the Old World bizarrely were allowed, I think, but you couldn't use a 40k sword on an AOS miniature. For a project that was very kit bashy, and not so much with this one, but for other people, maybe that was a little bit restrictive. And Games Workshop rolled back a little bit on that and listened to the community, which I think was quite cool. And you can now use pretty much any parts from any of their ranges on any of your conversions for their entries, but you still can't use whole miniatures. I still think that's a little bit restrictive. It should be about, as long as you make the miniature look like it fits within the theme and the setting, it shouldn't matter. But that's a long, complicated argument. That's not what this video is about. But the bit that hurts my personal project is not mixing the streams at all when it comes to Middle-earth strategy battle game and any of their other IPs. I actually agree with it. It's as much as it really, really kicks me in the butt for this and means I've got to make changes. I can understand it. They didn't design the original concept or own the IP for their kits for Middle-earth. The Rohan building kits that I've been using, the Lake Town house kits that I've been using, essentially were designed by people at Weta and people at New Line for those films. And the people at Games Workshop have reconstructed them and made miniature versions of them as kits which you can sell. So they didn't come up with those ideas. So to use them mixed in with Warhammer the Old World parts, it's fine for me to do if I want to. It's totally up to me. But if I want to enter one of their competitions where maybe they might want to photograph miniatures, it means they can't use any of that stuff because it's someone else's IP. That makes sense to me. It's a shame you can't enter those, but those are the rules. I actually wouldn't argue against it. But that leaves me with a problem. I've been beavering away, building the backdrop to my board, which is supposed to be around Nuln, the defenders of Nuln. So I really wanted this kind of a vista backdrop of the edge of the city of Nuln with timber framed buildings and castle walls and turrets and all of those things. And the best way to get the timber framed look from some of the older sort of fantasy images was actually using these Lake Town house kits and adding them to the existing watchtower buildings, adding them to the existing things out there. And the problem is I just can't use those bits now. I'm going to have to cut those out, and I've done quite a lot of filming, as you're seeing on the screen now, about building these things and working out where they go, and started to paint them. Luckily I'd only zenithal them and hadn't spent time doing more detailed painting. I also grabbed a bit of terrain that I used before in some of my Mordheim games that I'd built to go in the corner of the table for one scenario, which I just wasn't using, and placed that in the corner, and it's a little patch of water and it has a jetty with a couple of boats. But that jetty is using Lake Town house boarding, it's using Lake Town boats as well, and they fit perfectly. They look great for any generic fantasy or even historic, really. But again, it's using kits from Middle-earth strategy battle game for Warhammer the Old World, and I'm just not allowed to use them now. So that needs to be ripped off the corner, and it's a shame to do it. But if I want this board for Armies on Parade, which I do, I'm going to have to make those changes. So it's time to talk about the revised plans for the project, and they're not hugely different. The essence of it is going to be the same. The general layout is going to be the same. I obviously need to make those changes to the board I've just mentioned. I need to remove those things and find other ways of recreating the look that I wanted. And I have some fun plans about that. But let's start with the army itself. I'm a little bit freer now because it just needs to look like a cool army, unless I've missed a point that says it needs to be a legal army of a certain amount of points. I don't think that's in there. If you've read the terms and conditions and that's in there as well, let me know. But it means I'm a little bit more open to removing a unit if I need space, and putting a different unit on because it looks cool, and generally making it a little bit more fun rather than just my army of infamy that's 2k for throwing of skulls. What I can't use is my Von Zeppel conversion, because that's using parts from Middle-earth. It's using Rohan houses and a bit of the Goblin King's throne and a bit from the Goblin Scribe, so loads of Middle-earth stuff. Just a really good source of wooden planks and beams and things. Apparently it doesn't exist in any other kits in the same way, but I can't use that. So that will revert to being a steam tank on the board, because that will be cool. But of course I've got my war wagon now, and I've got time to paint and build that. So that will become a centerpiece on there as well. I'll build some kind of platform or space to have my BSB in there, I think, for games. And maybe he'll go in there for the board. Maybe I'll just have him on his own. So he will be added, and the war wagon will be added. And I think that might be it then, because that will fill the board. So I haven't got too many more changes to do with getting the army ready. I've still got to finish painting it because I want to play games on it, but I can do that a little bit slower. And it also means, for those of you that like Warhammer the Old World content but would like it to not just be Nuln content, means I can spread that out in between High Elf stuff, which appears to be on the horizon, and no doubt other things in the future as well. So it means my content will be a lot more varied and not just be all Empire and Nuln based, because I've got lots of other things I can do. So plans for the board, you'll always see quite rough what I was starting to map out on the board, and it skews the very rough looking kind of concrete cobblestone area. That's got lots of weathering and blending in. It won't look like a high school project by the time I've finished it. At least that's the plan. The backdrop I'm going to keep largely as it is, I think, but I do need to adjust those parts that I can't use. I want to do a painting behind it. It's something I may not have had chance to do. I've not done much art since A-level at school, but I plan on adding a board to the back of the outline of the city, which has some painted on buildings that kind of go into the distance with a sky behind. And my theme and my inspiration is going to very much come from a John Blanche painting of Nuln, a really old one where the buildings look sort of whitish grey and you've got that beautiful orange red sky. It's a really, really famous seminal piece, and I'd like to kind of evoke the feeling of that in there. Now, it's a big job. I'm 47. I've not done any big paintings since I was 18, but I'm going to be using my airbrush and giving it a go. And now I have the time to do that and try and paint a backdrop to go on there, and that's going to be a really, really fun thing to do. And maybe I'll make a video about making that, because it's going to be full of lots of mistakes and lots of swearing and things, and that could be really fun. So that's the plan for that, and I think it would look really striking. And go with the title which I came up at the beginning of Defenders of Nuln. Now, I also
received a very kingly gift, and it's not the first time I said this on the channel. Those of you who watch the channel that support me in so many different ways and have sent me expensive items or given me expensive things before, and this is another one of those instances. So Emil, or Thankles Layer on Instagram, got in touch with me, and he had some Forge World terrain back in the period when a few months ago when I was painting some of that for the channel and talking about how much I'd love to get hold of more of it, but it's so expensive. I was talking about gun emplacements for Nuln. Well, he said that he had a couple of little bits and dug them out. I thought he was sending me a well that needed a little bit of TLC but would paint up fantastically, and he did send that, but he also put in one of the Forge World earthworks as well. And for those of you who know how much these go for on eBay will know what a kingly gift that is, and I'm absolutely blown away. And thank you so much, Emil, and apologies if I've butchered the pronunciation of your name as well. But I'd like to work those into the board if there is space, and where I'm removing that little bit of water in the corner, I've got a plan to maybe put that larger gun emplacement there, and I might have my halflings in their hot pot there. That could be the perfect place to show them off, and then use my other earthworks and build those in across the front of the board, which should be cool for all my other cannons, and really kind of build into that idea of defending Nuln, building a layer of earthworks to prevent that first wave of attackers, which should be really cool to keep them out of the streets and the taverns of Nuln itself. I'm quite taken with the idea of putting the well on there as well, but it's going to all come down to sort of space and how much I want to build into the board, and whether I want to have these pieces to use as individual bits of terrain in the future as well. How many times can I say well? The well would be cool to have separate, so maybe there's a way of magnetizing it so that when it goes on the board it can come off. It might just take up too much space and not leave enough for actual army and units as well. I've said it again, I'll have to start a count, but we will see as I start laying the miniatures out. I need that backdrop nailed down so I know how much space it takes coming in first, and need to get that earthworks situated, and then line all my miniatures up again and see how they fit and work out whether it's going to work. I won't make a final decision yet because I don't need to. I'm going to focus on fixing the problems with the backdrop first, and I will do further updates like I did before. Some of those will be the 3-minute YouTube shorts rather than lots of videos like this, mostly because I don't have time. There's so many other planned videos, cool things to do with Warhammer the Old World, and of course other game systems as well on the channel. So that's it really. Not quite the news I had planned for this video. As I said at the top of the video, it was either going to be a video of da-da, it's done, or a video of da-da, it's done and I'm back from the Old World event. At worst, it was going to be a video with the Von Zeppel and most of the board done, and I will show you the finished things when I come back again. This wasn't planned at all like this, and that's why you got a separate Von Zeppel video, so you've not missed any of that content. But I have filmed lots of footage that probably won't see the light of day or will get used as part of the story. There will be a big video at the end of this which takes you on the whole journey for those people who just watch it as a one-off video. And when I condense some of the conversation I've had here into sort of smaller chunks and things. But I know a lot of you are really interested in this project and are rooting for me and message me and say you're looking forward to this and that. And for those of you that I won't be meeting up with now at the Warhammer the Old World event, that's one of the worst parts of not being able to go. Because I still get to do my army project, but hanging out with people there, meeting some of you, many of you patrons, was something I was really looking forward to do. So we'll have to try and make that happen this year if time allows, even if we do some meetups, and that's something I might look to do in the future, even if it's just relaxed at Warhammer World. I know someone's contacted me recently about them going in May, and I don't know if I can go yet, but I'll try to do something channel based for that in the future. Relaxed meetup at Warhammer World. I know Firestorm Games are opening a branch in my city in Gloucester at some point this year as well, and their stores are great. I love their store in Cardiff. I don't know the location of it yet, they haven't announced it, or how big it will be, but again, there's always the opportunity if it's big enough that I can host something local to me, which means I can actually take a number of my things there as well. But those are just all ideas at the moment that I can't make any finalised plans for until I know other things that are going on, but it could be fun. But anyway, thank you for your continued support. Thank you for watching the video. Hope you've enjoyed these slightly different ramblings today. If you like to support the channel, please just check out all the links in the video description. I have my affiliate links with Warlord Games and Knott's Hobbies that do brilliant dry brushes and really cool sponging effect tools, and they're very cheap. You get a discount if you use those links. Check out the show sponsor, the channel sponsor, Counter-Attack Bases. They're really great for custom dice, but they're also great for counters and markers and arcs and those kind of things as well, gaming aids, and they do lots for Warhammer the Old World, and I think there's lots more coming for us, so do go and check those out as well. You can support me more directly through my Patreon. It's really helpful, helps me have the time to make these videos like this. Thank you so much to all my patrons that support me in that way. I really wouldn't be able to do half the amount of content that I do without the financial support that gives me, so thank you very much. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.